a system from the wheel. Another arcade emulator. Amstrad GX 4000. Atari 2600. Atari 5200. Atari 7800. Atari Jaguar. Atari Lynx. Baghdad Wonder Swan. Baghdad Wonder Swan Color. ColecoVision. Commodore 64. Commodore Amiga. Batman.
You control the
Dice. Fairchild Channel AF. Future Pinball. GCE Vectrex. Magnavox Odyssey 2. Mang. Mattel Intellivision. NEZ PC Engine. NEZ PC FX. NEZ Super Graphics. NEZ TurboGrafx 16. NEZ TurboGrafx CD. Nintendo Game Boy. Nintendo Game Boy Color. Nintendo Game Boy Advance. Nintendo Virtual Boy. Nintendo Arcade Systems. Nintendo Famicom Disk System. Nintendo Entertainment System. Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Nintendo 64. Panasonic 3DO. PodCap. RCA Studio 2. Sanyo Tennis Wave. Sega Game Gear. Sega SG-1000. Sega Master System. Sega Genesis. Sega CD. Sega 32X. Sega Model 2. Sega Model 3. Sega Saturn. Sega Dreamcast. Sega Naomi. SNK Neo Geo MVS. SNK Neo Geo CD. SNK Neo Geo Pocket. SNK Neo Geo Pocket Color. Sony PlayStation. ViewTech Creative Vision. Utaro Supervision. Zing. Another arcade emulator. Another arcade emulator is a primarily vector-based arcade system emulator/simulator. It strives to recreate the experience of playing the games as they were in the arcade, and requires the original game ROMs in order to run. In some cases, copies of the original sound files and artwork are required to complete the emulation experience. It provides for simulation options that are not available in MAME, and offers several features that are not available in MAME due to their arcade preservation charter, such as advanced hardware-based drawing and motion blur. Although another arcade emulator is written to feel much like the MAME documentation project, it is a very different emulator, based in part on sources from the old emulator Retrocade. Amstrad GX 4000. The GX 4000 was Amstrad's short-lived attempt to enter the games console market. The console was released in Europe in 1990 and was an upgraded design based on the still popular CPC technology. The GX 4000 Atari 2600. The Atari 2600 is a video game console released in October 1977 by Atari, Incorporated. It is credited with popularizing the use of microprocessor-based hardware on cartridges containing game code, instead of having non-microprocessor dedicated hardware with all games built in. The first game console to use this format was the Fairchild Channel AF. However, the Atari 2600 receives credit for making the plug-in concept popular, Atari 5200. The Atari 5200 Super System, commonly known as the Atari 5200, is a video game console that was introduced in 1982 by Atari and Atari 7800. The Atari 7800 Pro System, or simply the Atari 7800, is a video game console released by Atari Corporation in January 1986. The Atari Jaguar. MAME, an acronym of Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator, is an emulator application designed to recreate the hardware of classic arcade game systems and software on modern personal computers and other platforms. The intention is to preserve gaming history by preventing vintage games from being lost or forgotten. The aim of MAME is to be a reference to the inner workings of the emulated arcade machines. The ability to actually play the games is considered a nice side effect. The first public MAME release 0.1 was on February 5, 1997, by Nicolas Almoria. The emulator now supports over 7,000 unique games and 10,000 actual ROM image sets, though not all of the supported games are playable. Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo Entertainment System, also abbreviated as NES, or simply called Nintendo, is an 8-bit video game console that was released by Nintendo in North America during 1985, in Europe during 1986 and Australia in 1987. In most of Asia, including Japan, China, Vietnam, Singapore, the Middle East and Hong Kong, it was released as the Family Computer, commonly shortened as Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System is a 16-bit video game console that was released by Nintendo's between 1990 and 1993. In Japan and Southeast Asia, the system is called the Super Famicom, or SFC for short. In South Korea, it is known as the Super Cowboy and was distributed by Hyundai Electronics. Although each version is essentially the same, the Nintendo 64, often referred to as N64, is Nintendo's third home video game console for the international market. Named for its 64-bit central processing unit, it was released in June 1996 in Japan, September 1996 in North America, March 1997 in Europe and Australia, September 1997 in France and December in Panasonic 3DO. Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis, also known as Sega Mega Drive, is a fourth-generation video game console developed and produced by Sega. It was originally released in Japan in 1988 as Mega Drive, and in North America in 1989 as Sega Genesis, and in Europe, Australia and other PAL regions in 1990 as Mega Drive. The reason for the two SNK Neo Geo MVS. The Neo Geo is a cartridge-based arcade system board and home video game console released on January 31, 1990 by Japanese game company SNK. Being in the fourth generation of gaming, it was the first system in the former Neo Geo family, which only lived through the 1990s. The hardware featured comparatively colorful 2D graphics. The MVS, or multi-video system, as the Neo Geo was known to the coin-operated arcade game industry, offered arcade operators the ability to put up to 6 different arcade titles into a single cabinet, a key economic consideration for operators with limited floor space. With its games stored on self-contained cartridges, a game cabinet could be exchanged for a different game title by swapping the game's ROM cartridge and cabinet artwork. Several popular franchise series, including Fatal Fury, The King of Fighters, Metal Slug and Samurai Showdown, were released for the platform. The Neo Geo system was also marketed as a very costly home console, commonly referred to today as the AES. The Neo Geo was marketed as 24-bit, though it was technically a parallel processing 16-bit system with an 8-bit Xilinx Z80L coprocessor. The coprocessor was used as a CPU and for sound processing. The Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis also had similar coprocessors, but neither Sega nor Nintendo claimed they were 24-bit. The Neo Geo was ranked 19th out of the 25 best video game consoles of all time by the video game website IGN in 2009.